Hello, friends, and welcome to an exciting episode of Snap Judgments. This is episode 47, because I don't know how numbers work. I definitely wrote 46 on all of my documents. I am joined by some wonderful guests that we'll get to in a minute. You might notice that there is no Roy Rogers. It is his birthday, and apparently he is too good to hang out with us on his birthday. He's actually doing really important stuff instead that is like adult related. So please do me a favor and wish happy birthday to Roy so that he can yell at me for telling everyone that it is his birthday. It would make me really happy. We are joined today by 3 special guests. We will start with our friend and yours, Marvel Snap Zone's genius writer of analytical articles who refuses to literally ever write anything I ask her to. She'll do it in private DM, but just it won't ever appear on the website because she hates money. It is LaurenWhatevs. How you doing, Lauren?
I'm doing great. I thought you were everybody's my friend and yours.
I don't know how to be Roy well. I don't. I'm a bad Roy. I'm doing my best here. You can call me out every time I bad Roy. It's fine. So, Lauren, how can our friends find you?
I'm most active on Twitter, LaurenWhatevs. I do write for Snap Zone intermittently. It's like once a month-ish. But, hey,
but I get an article in my DMs literally 3 times a week. It's cool. Just, not for money.
Okay, look. I have had 2 articles lately that I wrote in a single setting, which is astonishing and unusual. So maybe there will be more of that.
Are you going to write the one I want you to?
Maybe.
Jesus Christ. All right. We're also joined by the man of many fake names. He is GunnyT, where the T stands for this is his thousandth time on this show. How you doing, Gunny?
I am doing fantastic, Glazer. Just enjoying things. Busy. Been working a lot of tournament stuff, as you know, because you created a monster, and now that is me. The T stands for tournament.
the T stands for whatever I want it to that day.
Sure
damn
does.
It. Sometimes it doesn't even start with the letter T.
Nope.
So Gunny would also like you to know that he's not making YouTube videos right now, and he's very flattered that you keep asking, but he's just done. He doesn't have time. He's apparently like, I was Dr. Frankenstein. He was Frankenstein's monster. He's floating on an iceberg of tournaments.
So we started. When did the first Snap Judgments League start? It would have been early.
We started doing February. We started playing it late January, and we launched the announcement mid-Feb.
Since then, I have run 26 Marvel Snap tournaments.
Whoa!
So tournaments have taken over my life, and that's okay.
All right. I guess how can people find you /8,000 tournaments?
Yeah, so you can primarily find me on probably the Snap Judgments League Discord, which will be linked into this episode. Anywhere in there, just at GunnyT. I'm also in several other Discords, like Lambie's, the official Discord, Yo Woody, like a lot of the ones that are popular out there. And then on Twitch, or X, whatever you want to call it.
Twitter.
Oh, yeah,
not Twitch.
Goodness, whatever. I was watching Twitch before we got into this. So anyways, on X, you can find me at the Chad USMC, and I can answer questions there. But if you really have any tournament questions in general, like just hit me up. I'll let you know what's happening, what's going on, what we're doing, how to find them, how to get in. So I don't make YouTube videos kind of anymore, but every single one of our big tournaments, I do like a video of how do I do this. So I am still making some content, kind of. I get like 100, 200 views in those.
And so the people who joined the tournament, they're like, oh, look at that. Here's how I do this.
Yep.
Our final guest is someone I've been trying to get on this forever. And, well, I've been on his show 3 times? Some number of times. Yeah, numbers are hard. I've been on his show numerous times. It is my favorite Marvel Snap podcast. I was making sure that was a true statement before I said it, but it is a true statement. It's between you and STG and Cinos. It's like a fight. for my single favorite Marvel Snap. This is my least favorite Marvel Snap podcast, in case anyone was wondering, because I have to do so much work for this shit as opposed to the others that I just get to listen to. But my single favorite Marvel Snap podcast, Snap Decisions, we are joined. I don't know why I said decisions that way, but I did, and we're going to go with it. We are joined by Joe. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm doing awesome. I'm loving all this. And thank you so much for having me on the show. Man, I'm enjoying Snap. I'm enjoying all the people that I've met along the way. Yourself and Lauren. Of course, this is like a greatest hits for me. I think I've had everybody on my show here. So this is amazing.
And now this is your life. Here's your kid.
There it is. Yeah, right. Oh man, but yeah, anybody wants to check it out, I'd appreciate it. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcast under Snap Decisions, a Marvel Snap podcast, and of course on X at Snap Decisions 53. Also have a YouTube channel. That's kind of a little bit of a work in progress. I didn't really expect to do that right away, but since I've been able to get all these awesome people coming on the show with me, I thought, hey, why not do that? So that's being worked on, and I promise it will look semi-professional shortly. So.
Can we also mention that Joe has the coolest intro music on his podcast ever?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much to my friend Scott. He's amazing. He's a synthwave artist from California and made that song about 3 or 4 years back. It was one of the reasons how we met, actually, or how I know him. And being called Superhero, I'm like, well, that couldn't work out any better. So he was kind enough to give me permission. And actually, he's got the people who made the music video for it, which is tremendous. They actually use clips from Marvel films and DC stuff. And they're going to let me use it for the intro to my YouTube show, which is awesome. Cool. So yeah, thanks. He's fantastic. Look him up. His name is Elevate the Sky on Twitter. Does great music. It's awesome.
All right. So I'm going to do here's all the ways to find us as quickly as humanly possible. We are Snap Judgments Podcast, which I almost always remember to check since I forgot for the past month. Suddenly I remember Snap Judgments Podcast. If you want to reach us directly, it's easier to leave a comment or find us on Discord. I'm Glazer on Discord. I promise you, if you're in our Marvel Snap Discord, there's like a 75% chance I'm in it. Just at Glazer, you'll find me. I am also on Twitter at SnapJudgeCast. I hate the app, but I'm there. Twitter is a hell site, and it is worth always remembering that at every moment, as I'm not telling you to get a Twitter to engage with us. Please do not do so. But if you're already in the hellscape, you might as well engage with us. I release a video daily on YouTube. I call it a Snap Take. It's 3 brand new decks from proven deck builders, top of the meta decks, really solid stuff, I like to think, that has a full play guide for each deck, and then I answer questions of the day. I review every single bundle in Marvel Snap. I cover all the news yesterday/tomorrow kind of recording has a bunch of OTA stuff in it, weekend mission decks. Everything you need for your Marvel Snap journey is on that page. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's the other videos around this. If you're not watching this on YouTube, then please go check it out. It's Snap Judgments Pod on YouTube. There's other stuff that I don't care as much about, but if you do check the descriptions of this video, both the Marvel Snap Zone Discord and the Snap Judgments League Discord are there. We'll talk more about Snap Judgments League later this episode, so I'm not going to go into any great detail now, but Marvel Snap Zone is the best large Discord community of Marvel Snap. It's actually a friendly Discord that doesn't give you 10,000 pings, except when I'm feeling feisty, so please check it out. Hopefully. Oh, right, I have a Patreon. There's a Patreon. If you want to support us more, check out the Patreon. Patreon has multiple tiers that has all sorts of exclusive goodies on it. If you like what you hear, check it out. Patreon.com/snapjudgments. That's all I got. Everyone good with that?
Yep.
All good.
See, I told you I'm a terrible Roy. All right. Time to talk about our new card. Our new card is White Widow. White Widow is a 2/2. Series 5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, add a Widow's Kiss to your opponent's side of this location. Widow's Kiss is a 0/0. That has an ongoing of -4 power as long as the opponent's side of the location isn't full. All right, let's start with, let's just go in the same order we just did. Lauren, did you get White Widow?
Yes, I did. I went in with tokens and keys because I don't like the space art.
There are 2 variants released in the next 2 days.
I like the spotlight art the best. I've only done it a couple of times. It's okay. What else are tokens good for?
Nope. Okay. How do you feel about this card that you splurged for?
I love it. I don't know if I've known as a junk player, probably not. But before Lockdown became my number one love, I was playing junk. We're talking like February, March last year. So I love playing it. It feels really like, I don't know, centralized with Annihilus. Like everybody's playing it the same way nowadays. But yeah, White Widow's been a blast, and it's just a really fun card. I love it.
GunnyT, do you have White Widow?
I do not have White Widow. So as someone who doesn't have all the tokens in the world to use or all the keys, a bit on a budget, I have to kind of map out what I'm going to purchase. And I did the wait. And I think I'm okay with that. Well, the best way I think I've heard this described is this isn't an everywhere card. This isn't like a Red Hulk, which can go into like many different decks. It's not something that's going to be used everywhere. It's more like maybe a Proxima Midnight, where it's good for junk, good for discard. Obviously, Proxima Midnight good for discard there. So that tie-in kind of drove it home for me that it's definitely a great card to have in your collection. I would not be unhappy to own it, and it'll probably find some more homes in the future. But I do think it is pretty specific to the types of decks it wants to be in right now. So it was a skip for me, but maybe pick it up in the future, kind of like what I did with Cannonball.
I have thoughts about that statement, but I will let Joe go first. Joe, did you get a Widow?
I did, and I have all three variants already. I got the Archer one, came in my shop today. I got the other one from the day before. I love this card. I've been playing it in mostly Annihilus junk. She works extremely well, whether or not she ends up with that 0 -4 or whether it's just 0/0, because they're panicking to fill that lane. In many cases, they'll do that, and just because you have that extra card there, you'll win that lane. I've had a few different lists I've been working with. One has Professor X Cannonball, the other one is just a straight Annihilus, she's phenomenal, and I love the character. I loved it from the books, and of course from the films as well. I'm excited to see her coming back in Thunderbolts when that releases. But yeah, I think this is a great card. Probably maybe right up there with Red Hulk for me, as one of the best cards of the month. I think it's really, really good.
So I agree, it's really good. I don't think it's necessary as a junk player. I think it's necessary as a good stuff card.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think the actual opposite of what Gunny says. I think, like, in any deck that might want Jeff also might just want White Widow instead, depending on what it does. Like, it's a 2/6, and when it doesn't work, I said this in, I don't know, whatever day's video, time has lost all meaning. But Spyro said, when it gets turned off, it's like you played 2/2. You're basically, like, they're not getting negative power, but you have 2 power there where they have no power there, right? So it's like it's a 2/2 goblin. Like, they're getting fundamentally what amounts to -2 at that location when you play it. And that basically sold me. It's like, oh, so, like, it's either completely broken or it's just like a slightly cheaper green goblin. I'm in. So I think I'm in on this card. I don't think everyone needs to buy it, though. Because, like, I think what you should buy early on is stuff that lets you build decks, and White Widow doesn't let you build decks, it just goes in decks. That's my basic take. Follow-up thoughts, or we good?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can agree with the it being a good stuff card, but I do think, like you said, it's not something that has to go in every deck. Mm-hmm. Filling a Jeff spot, I don't know if I really tie that in, though. Like, Jeff does so much more. I mean, I guess I can kind of see it, but you're right. This is going to find more homes in the future, and this isn't a card that I think anybody will be sad to have in their collection. It's not like a Grandmaster that's going to be collecting dust for a while.
Leave my Grandmaster alone. Lauren?
I was going to say, she's like a single card mini junk package that you can put in. That's a terrible sentence. That you can put in any deck. Because, it's kind of the Goblin thing, right? There are decks that run only Green Goblin and nothing else in card. But she's so safe. Like, if you can play her on turn 5, and she successfully fills the 4th spot in somebody's location, like, yeah, it's not a lot of points, but it's locked down. They can't play there, and that's really strong. Plus, you don't have the risk of her getting negative power stuck on your side if they do fill it up themselves.
Many times when you're playing just like the regular Annihilus shell, you obviously, if you have the hood, you play the hood. Usually that second turn can be weird. And a lot of times I find myself having to play, the 1/6 right after I played the hood on another lane, which isn't always a great play. So this seems to be just something good to play on curve. In that list, and that's why I've liked it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really having fun with this card, and it's been in, to your point, Glazer, I've seen it in other decks. There are people that are just playing, different. I've seen it in someone played a Loki deck last night. It was in a Loki deck, just out of the blue. There was no reason for it. It was just in a Loki deck. So to your point, I agree. It probably could fit in a lot, and could be used in other decks.
And to take on this take for a second. So I heard Red Guardian explain this way, is like Red Guardian is possibly the best in slot card in a lot of decks, but very replaceable, right? There's other 3-drops that you can put there. I see White Widow kind of filling that same niche. It might be the best in slot in a lot of decks, but it can just be replaced with something else. Kind of on Glazer's point is like, it's not a build around card. It's just something that could possibly make it a little bit better. And if anybody's ever making a video that includes this card, they're going to go, okay, you can replace this with this. Put your Jeff here instead.
Jeez, who does videos with card replacements? All right, so I will be saying that every day for the rest of my life. Awesome, thanks.
Just play Jeff.
really excited for that moment of, did you know that White Widow is replaceable? And then people going, but I need White Widow, because I've decided my recommendation for White Widow is going to be the same as it was for Red Guardian. If you have an abundance of resources, it's a really good grab, but it's not a requirement.
No.
Yep. Right? Like, if you didn't have Red Hulk, you were playing off your back foot, right? Like, Red Hulk was a big enough deal that, like, without having Red Hulk, you couldn't make certain things. I don't think White Widow is going to do that. Which makes it the second best card of the month, I think, to me. But whatever. Yep. We'll save Red Hulk and US Agent for now.
Valentina.
Because, like... Yeah, well, whatever. We'll get there. That's next week's podcast.
I know.
Who the hell is on next week's podcast? I feel like that's the kind of thing I should know, but no. All right. Is that tech? It might be tech. All right. Either way, that we've got let's talk Zemo and Red Guardian, whichever of the two or both, the two cards that you feel like would be in a Surfer deck, but aren't really. I mean, Red Zemo sort of is. What do we think of them? Lauren?
I think they're both good, but I think they fit. I mean, I guess you already said for Red Guardian. Well, Gunny did that. Best in slot, maybe, but very replaceable. I've hardly used them at all, and it's been fine. But I also like to play decks that are doing their own thing rather than hard countering. I don't know. I guess Lockdown and Clog are sort of the hard counters to almost everything. Zemo, I think, is really fun. My favorite thing to do with him has been pairing him with Ms. Marvel, because he can put down multiple cards there that are not the same cost, which is kind of unique compared to, say, a Mr. Sinister or Brood.
Okay.
Yeah. Zemo I've had fun with. Same thing. The card's just fun. It's a lot of RNG. You can get something really lousy from them, or you can get something really, really good. I think I had a funny scenario where I pulled a gladiator, their gladiator got my gladiator, and it just was just going back and forth. So it's a fun card. It really is. I like it because they experimented with another type of deck. So a lot of people wanted a mill deck. They tried to make mill decks before that just really never worked all that well. So I think that this brought something different in. And Red Guardian, I would agree with everything you guys have said about him. He's not a necessity, I don't think, in any deck. He's helped me. I've played against, there is a lot of high Evo in the areas where I'm playing, and he can just wipe. Like, you put him on that lane and they have a Nebula there, or they have a Sun Sunspot, they're wiped out. And they can't, I did that to a couple of their decks, and it's tough because they can't soak energy then. With the Sunspot, he wiped out a Destroy deck for me too. They put down X23. He hit the X23, and that was that. There's no more extra, getting extra turns and stuff like that, or extra energy. So yeah, he's a good card, but however, like you all said, I don't see him as a must have, or that he's a must in every deck. So
I think that Second Dinner nailed Baron Zemo for the season pass card. Like, what a cool card that doesn't break the game but has fun abilities. Like, it is a really, really good season pass card. One way I've been using Baron Zemo lately is just as a 3/7, right? So most 1-drops out there are 1/2s. So you're pulling a lot of 2-power cards. So a 3/7 is just good stats. And I've been pairing that with Professor X, right? With the like a lockdown deck, just kind of making a lane pretty big. You can use your Baron Zemo, maybe a Gladiator over there, and then drop Professor X on that lane, and you've just got points for days. And then winning another lane with a Red Hulk or a Cannonball can really do just so much work. And the same for Red Guardian. It's really cool. It's a 3/5 as well. 3/5 is good stats that can sometimes just win you the game on its own. So I just think both cards are good. They don't break the game, and that is the perfect place to have a card. Kind of like this White Widow that we just talked about. A good card that just does what it needs to do and doesn't make anybody angry.
I feel like I've talked ad nauseum about both of these cards at this point, so I'm going to let that be that. Red Guardian, good, not needed. Baron Zemo, complete home run. New archetypes are awesome.
Yep.
All right. Let us go on to the OTA. I'm going to read us through, then we'll go one at a time, card by card, and Gunny will yell at me because he doesn't want to talk about this for that long. So our first thing is Red Hulk, who is now a 6/9. Yes, it is still +4. Yes, I did call that on the very first podcast after his release. As everyone who's listened to more than one of these knows, my single favorite thing in the world is being right. And I nailed this one, so yay! Let's start with Joe for Rolk.
A change you could see coming, and of course, like you said, you predicted it. You kind of knew it was going to happen. I mean, there's never a time when I don't have this card in my hands, ready to play on turn 6, where he's not in the 20s. Very, very seldom. And I think, when you read the notes from them today on this, I think they kind of just didn't think that they'd have people with as many turns that they're not using all of their energy, but it happens a lot. And so this, I think, is a start. I don't think this is where it's going to end with this card, because I personally don't think it's going to do that much. I don't think it's going to deter people from playing it. It's still going to get pretty big, and it's still probably the best card of the month. And so I don't necessarily think the 2-point loss is going to stop people from playing it. The card is just really good. He's very unpredictable, even though you could see it. It could lead to a lot of people just leaving the game early, which is detrimental, I guess. But he's also very hard to get rid of unless you're playing a ghost, and you can shang him at the end, which nobody plays that card. So I liked them. I like what they did, but I think they're going to do a little bit more with it still.
Gun?
Yeah, I mean, Red Hulk going down. I think I agree with Joe. It's like something else is probably going to happen here. I was playing with it today, and it was still a big dude. I think going down to 9 is an interesting place for it, because that makes it, if it doesn't ever pop off, then it's not shangable. But I don't know. It's a start, I guess. This is Blob 2.0. We'll figure out what happens to it.
Lauren?
I am appropriately last because I spent 6,000 tokens and 1 key on White Widow, and I skipped Red Hulk. It was maybe out of principle more than anything else. I just I'm sick of stat sticking. We've had one every month since December. I do really like his ability.
Does Ms. Marvel not count as a stat stick?
Okay, since November.
Werewolf by night?
Yeah, I could just keep going, right? But at least those ones,
I got no problem.
At least those
I think
ones
Lauren likes gamed actions.
Interesting. Yeah. So
Captain Ms. Marvel was not interesting upon release, but go ahead.
You're right. Having said that, okay, actually, Ms. Marvel was kind of fun with Echo because it was so predictable. Everybody was running her, and you always wanted to play her in the same lane. So I liked that small interaction. I think Red Hulk showing off his power is really cool, actually. I think that's interesting. And we even got it in the, to tie it into the OTA. It was in the notes today. Like, how many 8-cubers is Red Hulk stealing by people trying to counter the Red Hulk, and then the Red Hulk player just played something else instead? I love that use for Red Hulk.
That's how I play it.
But I definitely think this isn't a big enough difference. He still plays the exact same role, and maybe the only difference is you don't play him when you draw him on turn 6.
Yeah. I think it's fine, right? Like, he's not going to be significantly worse. I just played him. He was great. I even played him in a game, which is rare for me. But, like, he was like 24 power, or 23 power, whatever math said he was. I was just like, oh, that's pretty damn big, so I should do that. So I did, and then I won. It was nice. I don't know. Like, this is not a buff, but it'll occasionally win you a game it would have otherwise lost you, because he'll get that he won't have triggered, right? And then he'll get that power at the end of the game. They'll shung, and then the power will kick in at the end, and that's at least funny. So, cool. I think that this is an appropriate change. I don't know if he still needs to be nerfed. I think it's fine for him to be about this strong as long as he's not completely broken. I'd almost rather they just take off another power or two than change the +4. I think the +4 is pretty cool. But, like, if they go to +3, fine, whatever. I wish they'd go to, like, +3 for Evolved Hulk. But that, like, power the game up a little bit. I'm fine with it at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think it's okay for there to be a card that's essentially 6 infinity, right? Like, I think that's fine, as long as it's counterable.
As long as it's not blob. Like, it can't, so, like, not actual 6 infinity, right? Like, I don't, like, 6 to, like, low 20s, I'm kind of okay with, as long as, like, I know what's happening. Blob being 630 was a little bit stupid. Like, once you got above 30, it felt like I couldn't compete, even by going, like, playing, like, if I play 4 7s and you're just like, blob, that was dumb, right?
But then you Shang it, or Valk it, or Shadow King, right? Like, I mean, there are answers.
Yes, but, like, blob made it harder to do. It was run a lot with Kyera, and it was run specifically at that point in decks that made that more complicated than it looked.
Okay, you're right. In some ways, Old Goliath is 6 infinity, and while I hate him, I also I think it's possible to build a game where a 6 infinity isn't a problem.
Agreed. I don't think it's always a problem. I just don't always love it.
That's fair.
All right. Next up, U.S. Agent now gives -4. That's the change. Joe, what you got?
I like the change. I mean, there's a win and lose scenario with this. First off, so many people, like myself, you kind of had that whole issue of just getting the card when you wanted to get it, and they fixed all that, which was good. But I think then after that, a lot of the creators, as they do, they played the card, and the card wasn't good. And it just wasn't good, and they were telling people it wasn't good, and so I think a lot of people just skipped out on it. And now that that's the case, you may want it and you can't get it, and you're probably not going to see it for a while now. So that kind of sucks. But I mean, he kind of, I guess, has a place. I still don't know if he's a really good card. I mean, that four off of each one in a lane is pretty good. But again, my drawback to this is, and we're just talking about Red Hulk. If you're playing him in a lane, like let's say you have let's say you have a junk deck. You're playing him in a lane. Most of the time, they're going to avoid it if you play him out early. So you almost have to wait for him to put him out on turn 6 and just watch to see where they have the 4s, 5s, and 6s. But if something big gets in that lane, it's not, even taking 4 off of it's not going to do that much. He definitely is better, though. The point difference from 3 to 4, it does make him better and a little more enticing to play. I'm certainly going to check into it and experiment with it a little bit. But that said, I don't know necessarily if he fits into some of those lists because they're kind of tight now, and Widow now is in those lists at a number 2, at least for me. So I don't know that I'm gonna replace him in anything like that. Maybe he'll fit into a Man-Thing list for me, and I'm cool with that too, being that I love that card. So we'll see, I guess. But I feel kind of sorry for the people who now may want this and didn't get it.
Gunny?
I don't think it changes anything. I think the card was bad before, and it's still bad. Again, there might be things that come out in the future that make it better, which is hard. I think Joe kind of nailed it there with you. How many 4, 5s, and 6s are actually played in the game? Obviously, with Zabu gone, people aren't dropping multiple 4s early, so you don't have a lane like that. So really, you're looking at probably 3 cards, right? You're a 4, a 5, and a 6, and needing at least 2 of those in a lane, or obviously 1. A 2/7 is good stats. Don't get me wrong, 2/7 is good stats. But is it enough stats? And know if you play it early, they can obviously play around it. That's the hard part. I don't know. I just don't think it changes much.
Lauren?
Yeah. So the fact that you have to play him late to make him a 2/7, like Gunny was saying, this is why cards like Black Swan are only okay, because in order for her to work, there's the deck building cost, but also you have to play ones late, and ones late aren't that great. There's an opportunity cost there, right? So if you're saving your 2s for late, maybe you're playing a Sarah deck, and that's okay. But 2/7 comes at the cost of you have to play him late to make sure he's a 2/7, and that stinks. I mostly agree that it just really doesn't make a difference. He's still a bad card, but I do think that this makes a big difference against Tribunal. I had several Tribunal matches where even when I was hitting 3 or 4 targets, they still won, and -4 more power on the lane that's getting the double Iron Man is huge.
Yep.
Yeah, that is big.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point.
I think he's just largely a casualty of Zabu. And not in just the obvious way that there's not as many 4s. I think Zabu decks would have loved him, because Zabu decks on the last turn of the game would be like, if I didn't see Zabu, now I can play Darkhawk in this. Or I could play Darkhawk earlier, right, on 5, and then I can go or if I played Silver Samurai or Black Bolt, I can go this stature and a demon, that kind of nonsense. And I'm spreading just a massive. Now I played a 2/7, a 1/6, and a 1/6, right? 1/7, I guess, now as of today. So there's just an absolute ton of power you're putting out with US Agent in that kind of play, but you don't have as much access to that in the absence of Zabu. That style of deck isn't something that really comes together as often. The other thing Zabu decks used to do a lot was on turn 5, they would go 3/2. Where you would play the first of your 4 drops, your Ms. Marvel type card, right? And then that 2 would be something like Jeff. I think US Agent is, in that exact situation, a strict upgrade on Jeff. And not having the ability to get that strict upgrade is necessarily problematic, right? I think that kind of thing just sort of takes it out of the meta, whereas it would have had a home. There is a distinct possibility in my head, I can't get the exact list down, that there's a deck that wants to go basically 2/2/2s, 3, and 6, and have that be the main focus of the deck. Have Hope be that 3, and then it can go 2/1/2, whatever 2 that would be. Angela seems reasonable, right? Hope, and then play 2/2s, ideally one being Jeff or Silk, right? Then you can start going into a 6 on 5, and then you can either play 3 2s on 6 or drop another 6. And I think that's a reasonable cost curve for US Agent Tech. That's not something that currently exists, though. The closest we have is Silky Smooth decks, right? And I think that's a reasonable proxy for where we might end up. But it's a lot of work and a lot of differences when the obvious Zabu/Sarah home was just sort of ripped away from it.
Lauren, you mentioned Sarah, maybe a Sarah control type deck with this. I mean, you don't see them played all as much anymore, but there are still players that do it. So I don't know. Maybe you could find a home in a Sarah control list.
Yeah, I think so. Because you got, it would be very strong, except there's Sandman and Mobius.
Yeah,
that are still meta presence.
Yeah, that's true.
Meta presences. But yeah, I mean, slamming a bunch of 2s with Sarah is excellent. And US Agent is perfect for that. It's just, I think that's a really hard deck to play right now.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So, as we're talking, Safety literally just posted this deck. This is exactly where I would like to run US Agent. Like, almost perfectly. Probably in the Killmonger spot. Ready?
Yep.
It's running the Thors. Jane, Beta, and Thor proper. Throg. Yeah? Then it's running the Kitty package. Kitty, Angela, Hope. It's got White Widow and Jeff, Ms. Marvel, and Shang-Chi. And it's got Ghosts so that you don't just get your Beta Ray Bill / Thor shunged in the face, because it's very easy to shung them if not, right? And then the last spot is Killmonger. Like, I feel like at the end of the game, most of what I'm playing is hammers. And then I'm going to be dropping, like, my Ms. Marvel. Or my Shang-Chi. And that's exactly where I want this card. So, like, I think there's some hope here. I think that, like, there's a real chance here.
Yeah, I like
2-7 is good stats.
Yeah.
Right. It's 2-7 is great stats. There is no 2-7 in the game except maybe Angela, right? Like,
yeah.
And then, like, 2-11 is absurd. It's not just good. It's utterly absurd. So even if that's something you don't get as often, like, a 2-11 means I don't have to necessarily commit one of my 4 or higher cards there, especially if I've got a Ms. Marvel buff there.
2-11 is old Elsa territory.
Yeah. So if we've got 2-11 and then we've got plus, like, the +5 from Ms. Marvel and, like, a Jeff. Well, I guess it couldn't be a Jeff. A Ghost. It's a 20 power lane, right?
Yep.
There's something here. I don't know if we're going to figure it out because I don't think anyone cares because of the trouble with it, but, like, there's something. All right. I'm going to say Jean, Stature, and Jane at once, and we'll take them together because they're all just simple 1-stat buffs, and I have a claim to make that I'd like you to agree or disagree with. Oh, actually, before we do that, I need a US Agent thought. If this buff makes US Agent meta relevant, that's obviously going to make it a severe FOMO thing, and a bunch of people won't have this card. First, is this a problem worth addressing on Second Dinner's End that this happens? It doesn't happen often. The only other cards I can think of that where it happened and mattered were Black Bolt and Gladiator. It did happen with Hercules and something else too, but the cards didn't matter. Meek was also 3,000 tokens, so I care a significant amount less when it's a Series 4 card. It was Hercules and Celine.
Yeah.
Who neither one was buffed into meta relevance. They both still completely suck. So, but Gladiator and Black Knight were both put in. Black Knight luckily was, like, coming out the next month in Spotlights. This is obviously a problem. How big of a problem? Is this something to solve? And if it is something to solve, how do you solve it?
All right, I got a spicy take. Who quits playing the game because it's a problem?
Me. I'm done. Peace.
Right? Like, that's what I really think it comes down to, is, like, if it's not going to make people not play the game, then it's not a problem that they're going to fix because of that FOMO thing you talked about, right? So if every bad card that comes out has a possibility of getting better, then people are just going to want to buy everything. And that is more money for them. So why would they go about fixing it if it forces people to buy bad cards?
Fair. Lauren?
I have a lot of trust in the balancing of the team. I know some people don't. I'm not going to say that it's 0% connected to the team that is concerned about maximizing revenue, but I think mostly Glenn's design team is interested in making a good game. You know,
I agree.
It's interested in, or it's connected to revenue in the sense that they need to make cards that are good and interesting enough to sell. But I don't think that they're manipulating balance patches in order to
they're definitely not. They're definitely
milk more out of the game. Like, there's a lot of things that they do wrong if that's what their goal is. So I have a lot of trust, and I think, you know, the other side of the same coin, that a card like US Agent can be buffed right after it's in the spotlight is, you know, well, that cards that are ridiculous that you missed will get nerfed. So it's okay that you missed them. You know, it's like the balance affects all cards in the game, and things that are out of control get fixed pretty quickly.
Yep.
Sure.
I like the fact that we're getting proactive fixes, and that they're seeing it. I know that the argument against that is exactly what I mentioned earlier, and the fact that if people skip it, there's going to be bad feelings, but I don't know. I mean, and maybe it's the 90s Magic player of me being through the broken age of all those cards that just destroyed everybody that played them. But I don't know. There's pros and cons to this, and yes, I don't know. Maybe a fix would be the rotation of the spotlight caches and get things at we've seen null a bazillion times. Maybe maybe get the cards rotating in a different manner and get them out faster. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to speak on it because I own every card, but it's. I can see it from both sides. And in fact, over on that app that he shall not name, because it's not my favorite app at all, the Big X, I had an argument going on in the chat that I put out, very innocent post, and it got into a pretty heated discussion between two people. And it was very much about this, because, one person was very upset that they didn't get it and now kind of want to play it and can't. So I can see both sides of the coin, but again, I agree with Lauren, and I think that they're trying to do their best to make this a good game, and they're trying to make it fair, and they're trying to make these cards not just be sitting there and be terrible, and they're just able to do it quicker now that they have these OTAs coming out. So I don't mind that. And, I think it's, for the people who did get it and thinking to themselves, I'm never going to play this card's garbage, and everybody's telling me it is. Look, that may not necessarily be the case anymore. And now they have a card that they can go and make decks for. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I can see where some people wouldn't like it. And so, it's kind of a both sides of the fence thing. But I'm more happy with the fact that they're being a little more proactive with some of these cards at a quicker pace than we were getting before.
Yeah, I think a fix, quote unquote, would possibly be like any card touched in OTA or a patch is just available in the token shop for like a week or something. The bad part about that is then if a card comes out underpowered, you just don't buy it until they buff it, right, and then you buy it whenever it gets buffed.
They are available in the token shop, though. Do you mean
I guess for rotation,
at a discount or at a spotlight, or like a pinned sort of card?
Yeah, I guess obviously you're talking about like the cards rotating. You can check back every 8 hours and try to see if your card populates. So you're right. As long as for me, I'm not collection complete, but I'm close enough to where I can reasonably get any card I want by just checking in a few times, over a couple days.
Yep, me too. And right. I think I was just going to say, I think that's what tokens are for.
Yeah.
People ask me if I have enough spotlights and enough or enough keys and enough tokens to buy the new card, which is better economically. And it's like, it doesn't really matter which order you do them in, because if you spend one on this card, you just spend the other on the next card. But personally, I keep a stash of tokens for this exact purpose, for when a card becomes important suddenly. It's how I got Black Knight. It's how I got Gladiator.
Yeah.
So I think the fix is real simple. Like, there's two potential fixes, I think, that are viable, that aren't like I don't think there needs to be a fix. But if they're going to fix it, I think there's two things. A is just have a token shop where you can just buy what you want. The rotation is kind of stupid and outdated. Like, if I want to give you my money, stop making it harder for me to give you my money, please. Like, you want my money. I want to give you my money.
I think we're going to talk about that in our next slide, right?
We are.
Yeah,
let me give you the money. The other thing is, because we got to do the other cards real fast, because there's not nearly as much to say. We're hitting the big two at late. So the other thing is, anytime that they touch a card that is in series 4 or 5, they can say in the next month it will be in spotlights. We are going to add a special extra. It'll replace whatever X card that's not super desirable. We're going to change our schedule to make sure it appears in spotlight sooner. And I think that would basically solve the problem.
Yeah.
Solve the problem, right?
It seems super consumer friendly and conscious of the pain that causes.
Yep. Right. It would just So I think that like the disconnect is that Steven is in charge of one and Glenn is in charge of the other. Right? Like, I think that's honestly what the problem is. It's that two different people are in charge of it, and they're just like, whatever. Like, I did my thing. Great. Next. So, all right. My claim about Gene, Stature, and Thor, and you can agree or disagree and then talk about them. I don't really have much to say. Is that each of the three of these is them still trying to readjust the numbers of the game from the change to Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi used to hit 9 drops, and so them having 1 less power left them in the meta compared to other cards where they wanted. And now that Shang-Chi hits 10 drops, everything, like 3/4 of the cards in the game at some point need 1 more power. And this is the 3 we got this week. Lauren?
Yeah, I think that's basically true. I don't know. Okay, it is Shang-centered. It's just power creep. And Shang is just, he's such an arbiter of the meta that's like a very clear way to see how the game has been creeping forward in power.
Gunny?
I have nothing to add.
You sound so miserable about these. All right. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to say. Stature will make her way back at some point. You know, I mean, that Black Bolt Stature deck is it comes and goes. And you know, the fact that now she's going to be a 7 is good. Jean, unfortunately, I love the card. I love the character so much, but with the meta we have, and Elsa and stuff like that, and the smaller cards, Angela and Kitty, it's just not viable. And Jane, you know, I don't know, the Thor stuff. I've seen some people playing it. I saw Binks playing a Thor deck the other night on stream. It seems to be pretty good now with lockdown, because if a Prof X comes out, you can still up the total of the points on those lanes with the hammers. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing here that I would complain about, but there's also nothing here that I would say is fantastic. Yeah, I would agree with you guys. It's just, you know, it's just getting the power a little bit higher and stuff like that, and just seeing where they could go. I'd agree with that.
No one cares about Mantis. Like, speak now or forever hold your Mantis piece.
I do actually have one quick thing to say.
Oh my god. All right. I was sure nothing was going to happen. This is like at a wedding where like no one ever says that thing and you just did it. All right, go ahead.
Okay. In the OTA notes, and both times they've changed her recently, they address Venom. And I think they're right. She's a really nasty Venom counter, but who's running a single card to counter Venom?
Yes.
So I have a theory related to this. I think Destroy and Discard stats are significantly better than we think. Like, I think the stats for both Destroy and the Apocalypse, not Hella, Discard are like through the roof, and that like content creators haven't noticed, and they kind of keep sort of pulling things back for them very quietly. And they're just like, maybe Mick should have 1 less point. Right? Like, they're like, maybe we need to make Mantis a little better against Destroy. Like, and they're just sort of like inching the counterplay or like weakening the decks, because I think the stats for them are genuinely through the roof in like the regular MMRs.
Yeah, I love that theory, and I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Across most of the player base.
Right. Like, not in the top 500, right? But like everywhere else, I would bet that they dominate.
Yeah. I would vouch for that. I mean, listen, I've I see so much Destroy, so much, and it's to me, they want to fix Destroy, fix X-23. She's the card that makes that go, and if they don't have that, it's a completely different deck. So yeah, but I would agree with that. I think that, and I don't know, we heard about that rumored change possibly to Venom that they didn't do. I don't know. I would agree with that though. I've seen enough and lost to enough of those decks to attest to it.
Fair. All right. Any final OTA thoughts, or are we finally ready to put Gunny out of his misery?
I'm not miserable. I just have nothing to add.
All right, patch hopes for Tuesday. First, how's the meta? And you can answer these at once. These don't have to be individual. How's the meta? What changes do you want for cards? And what changes do you want for the game? And we'll go Joe.
I think the meta's in a pretty good place. I mean, it was, the beginning of the month with the Red Hulk, everybody was running Red Hulk, and High Evo, I think, were the two I was seeing the most of. It's going to be different for everybody. And I think that's what, people don't, I guess, maybe sometimes think about that, right? You watch a lot of the content creators just like I do. I mean, I watch so many of them, but a lot of them are playing in high ladder. And so what they see is a lot different from what I'm seeing when I'm playing in the 70s and 80s. So, but I like it. There's so much different stuff out there now. And especially now that we get the cards that we have, White Widow has been pretty dominant. Now I'm seeing a lot more junk and a lot more Annihilus than I had been seeing elsewhere. So I think that's kind of cool. I even got to play Galactus a little bit and he worked. So I'm always happy when I can do that. As far as changes, I don't know that I necessarily need to see something huge changed. I mean, to me, I think maybe I just said it. The Destroy, I think, does need to be toned down just a little. And I think for me, it would be an X23 change. I don't know if I'd make her maybe an extra cost or something like that to maybe just slow that down a little bit, because it really does seem that it can be really hard to beat. And especially with the junk stuff flying around out there, Destroy was having a field day. So maybe for me, that might be it. Other than that, I don't know. I think everything else can kind of be dealt with in its own way. And changes that I would like to see or expect for the game. I'm kind of hoping that next week's patch, I don't think we're going to see too many card changes, maybe if any, because we just got these. So I'm hoping that the card borders that they had in there that they had already, that we kind of thought were coming, I'm sure we'll probably get that. So I'm guessing that comes. I'm hoping this is just like changes for the sake of the game. And maybe we'll get something with the clans. I don't know if that's coming soon, or we just got a little piece of that when we saw the data mines. But yeah, hopefully I'd like to see something new, something a little bit different. I know some people have talked about that have been on my show. I've heard that from other content creators like Drew Barry and others, kind of saying that they just think that it's, the game has been as old as it is now. And they were all saying that, maybe it's just time to just get something just a little bit different for the game itself. I'm looking forward for RSM, man. I am excited about that card. I think that's going to really make the game different. People are going to be able to play almost like draft mode. The creators can do it and watch them. And I think it'll just be fun. So yeah, that's it for me.
Lauren?
I think Junk and Annihilus and Professor X are kind of too good right now. At least with where the meta is, maybe given another week or two, something will come along to answer them. But I also think it's too early for them to be in this next patch, especially because the patch needs a few weeks of lead time. So I have no idea what will happen to cards. I got nothing. I talked to somebody today about a 2/1 or 2/2 Rhino, and I think that's kind of interesting, but also, yeah, I mean, you have to be careful about not stepping on Scarlet Witch's territory. I don't actually expect Rhino to get touched anytime soon. It's just like, there's nothing that's like standing out as obvious to me as something that needs to be fixed. I do think Hela's probably still too good, and it's just that the meta has kind of moved on, but it's going to fall back to Hela as soon as something gets addressed. Content-wise, I still think we're a few months out from anything significant, although I believe, based on last patch notes, that we should be getting splits set so that they are per character instead of per variant, which is awesome.
Gunny?
Yeah, I think the meta is in a great spot right now. There's just so many viable decks out there. There's low points decks, there's big points decks, there's move decks, there's combo decks. It's in a really good spot. So what I'm afraid of is a big shakeup that will kind of break what we have going on for us right now, which I think is a pretty good meta. What I want to see is what is my favorite thing. So back up for a second here. Whenever we have our good cards that we've spent our tokens on get nerfed, it feels so bad, right? You spend all this money on a blob, and now it's no longer usable, in a lot of different decks. But what I don't think people really realize is whenever they have a card that's irrelevant, buffed, and now, especially when it's in like series 2 or 3 or anything that they already own, like that is a great thing. Like you got to revel whenever that happens. So I want to see some of those irrelevant cards, continuously pushed up a little bit. One that Joe and I were talking about the other day was I want Captain America to be good.
Oh.
Captain America is such a cool card.
Yes.
So the fix I kind of had for this, I don't know where it goes, what the cost is. But kind of like how Spider-Man comes down, he shoots webs out and moves things around. What if Captain America, like every turn, threw his shield out and gave an enemy card there -1 power or something? Like that would be pretty cool.
So, Cyclops?
Yeah, kind of Cyclops, mini Cyclops,
multi-lens Cyclops.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see like his shield, or maybe like every turn he shoots it and it takes a random card from any location. Just like his shield, shoots out, comes back to him, and that just seems cool to me. Like something like that. Like let's make Captain America good. And just any of those irrelevant cards that are underplayed. Like I love it whenever they just become something to look at again.
Yeah, I fully expect something to get redesigned. I don't think it'll be Captain America, but I fully expect something to be redesigned.
Quake is a good example.
Yeah.
Quake is so cool.
Quake, Spider-Man, Wolverine, they've redesigned quite a few cards.
Yeah.
I think that a couple things get redesigned. I think if they're smart, they do it for X-Men 97 characters.
Yes.
They give a couple of the less played ones a nice big redesign. I don't know which ones off the top of my head. They just buff Jean, right? Like I'm sure that that's part of why they buff Jean. Like I would assume that like we see some kind of redesign for someone prominent in X-Men 97 relatively soon. I also think we're going to get the Thanos change so the stones work better for Thanos. I don't think they're going to be happy that Thanos' play rate has fundamentally disappeared. And they implied heavily when they OTA changed Thanos to start in your hand that they were going to patch it that time so that the stones, and then they didn't. So I think that that's coming at the end of the month as well.
Yeah, Joe and I talked about that change too. I would love to see the stones power up Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
Like every stone in play does something for Thanos. Like you can start in your hand, that's cool. But like what if each stone gave +1 power or something?
Yeah, they need to do something. But I think they are. That's just a fundamental redesign. And I think they wanted time to get it right. I would assume that's this patch. It might be another one down. But I don't think they like where Thanos is in the meta. I also wouldn't be shocked, just slightly off. I wouldn't be shocked to see High Evo become a 4/6 or so.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think the like actual Evo itself could use a little buff. I wouldn't be shocked if the Hulk got that extra power so that it's worth running. Like maybe this is when Cyclops becomes a 3/5 because Cyclops will probably become a 3/5, etc. The game, we're gonna get that weird tournament mode that I kind of hate. I understand. Like, I really just wish there wasn't a pay to win mode for that tournament, for that mini tournament thing. But like outside of that, I think that's reasonably cool. I think that would solve a lot of the problems in the game if it weren't pay to win, right? Like if you couldn't just like if I know if all the Italians could go into one of those and beat the hell out of each other and see who was the best, they would be very happy. But if one of them can be like, here's $50, I win, that defeats the whole purpose for competitive players, right? So I think that like the mode is likely to look, I'll join it in case I randomly win and get some goodies, but like I'm not taking it seriously because I'm never going to put money into it. And I think the meta is good. I don't think the meta is as good as everyone says. I think people confuse variety with goodness. I think there's a lot of stuff that's good, but I think that the goodness is more rock, paper, scissors than I would generally like. I also think that Marvel Snap fans are unbelievably fickle. Thankfully, I'm not talking to my viewers, but things I've seen, like genuinely, last week I saw a week of straight complaints that Zemo needed to be nerfed, and I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because Zemo doesn't need to be nerfed. The deck's not that good. Like, it's good, but like, you need to nerf Zemo? Really? Play a different deck against it. You'll be fine. And like, now it's like, Annihilus really needs to be nerfed. And like, Annihilus is probably needed to be nerfed for 3 months. But like, also calm down. You're freaking out again. Like, the amount of time it takes for people to freak out and start demanding nerfs is partially caused by the speed and frequency with which we get updates, but also calm down. Let things develop. Because, like, you know what needs to be nerfed? I'm not kidding in any way, shape, or form. Still fucking Loki. I get sent top decks from the top meta players all the fucking time. Do you have any idea how many of them are playing some version of Loki for like at least half their games? Loki is nuts.
Yep.
It's just hard to play. And like they're just like, yeah, screw the top of the meta, right? But like Loki's still bad, and they're about to get Valentina. But you know, whatever. Neither here nor there.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with Loki. Loki is you know, even where I'm playing at, it's out there and it's being played a lot again. So yeah, I would agree.
Further thoughts? Are we good?
I think I'm good.
Hey, it's time for the Gunnies Live.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm not advertising the Grand Prix because when this is released, the Grand Prix will be happening.
Yeah,
and that seems like a waste of everyone's time. So
this gets released on Saturday, right?
This gets released at some point on Saturday, but it's Ray's birthday, so it's possible it releases Sunday, right? Like it's possibly like I'm celebrating Friday.
If you're listening to this on Saturday, It's Guest Gaming will be streaming the top 16 of the Snap Grand Prix. So go watch
Saturday.
that.
Who's streaming the Swiss?
I don't think we're streaming the Swiss.
What? Oh. Well, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever. Not my... Sorry, my internet just hiccuped. Hi. All right. So we are doing Snap Judgments League Season 2. Season 1 was... I don't know how to say this, except an incredible success.
Oh my gosh.
So Season 2 is kicking off Monday, May 6th, which means you can sign up until May 5th. We had... $200 in prizes last time. And this time we have $700 in prizes. I'm going to let Gunny explain more about that in one moment. How the league works is fundamentally you get one game a week for 4 weeks. You schedule it with your opponent on your own time. The top 4 in your pod of players will have a single elimination mini tournament for the winner of that pod. We didn't do that last time. That's new. But people were like, I didn't like that when I lost the first time. It felt like there was nothing to play for. Now you can lose maybe even twice if you have a strong strength of schedule and still get into that top 4. It'll be a single elimination. Top 8 in each pod?
Top 8 in each pod.
All right. Well, I need to fix that on all the slides I've made. Thanks for letting me know. Top 8 in each pod, which is nuts. But cool. Let's do it. Whatever. More power. I am, I believe, competing this time, by the way. I know I haven't signed up. Shut up. But I am, I believe, competing this time. I don't have any vacations or major surgeries planned or unplanned coming up. After the winner of each pod will move on to a winners bracket, which will be another single elimination tournament for another huge prize. We've got a ton of amazing creators playing, including top players like Lambie,
Yo Woody,
Brade. Just massive names. Check it out. It's $1 to enter, basically because we want to be able to offer as many prizes as possible, and that requires me to not lose a bajillion dollars on this. So it's $1 to enter, and we're going to do raffles throughout, all sorts of great stuff. Hey, how did our prize support go up so much? And tell us any of your thoughts. Mr.
Yeah, so our
T.
prize support went up. Glazer was reached out to by someone from Primed Mind, which is a pretty cool app. Has a history. So it's like a coaching app that kind of puts you in a good mind space. It's got short, couple minute audio clips. It'll tell you deep breathe, close your eyes, kind of get your mindset. And they've had a history of working with poker players. There's a poker player that won $21 million, and Prime Mind had worked with the lead guy whenever he was doing individual coaching. And then they have some other players in the esports spaces that have been using it. So that's pretty awesome. Glazer and I were kind of skeptical. It sounded too good to be true. So we were holding off, what is this guy talking about? Whatever. So we ended up, chatting with him for a bit. Turns out he's one of our players, has a 15,000 collection level, and been playing since global release. And he just wants to support the competitive scene. He happens to have an app, and he kind of wants to promote it and stuff. But Ryan is just such a cool guy who is really just here for the community, and upping the prize support, really helps with that. But if you want to check it out, if you're interested in like, kind of that mind space coaching to help you play your games better, like it's a good app. I've tried it out. The first one I listened to was actually pretty amazing. It was about like managing anger. It talked about, viewing yourself as a child and then like letting all of your anger and frustration out, break things, whatever, in your mind space. And then like going in and like comforting yourself as a child. And that really spoke to me because I don't want to go too deep, but like I was the parent to my imaginary child that I wish I would have had as a parent or as a child to myself. And it was just like, I was, wow, kind of crazy that I didn't expect that at all. And it worked out really well. But again, one of our players is just supporting it. And it's really, really cool that we get this kind of support. And a lot of that has to go with just like what you ended up pulling together here, Aaron, like having a league with 236 players, the first one that we do, and the professionalism that our mod staff has been able to put forth, it attracted this, right? If we held a cruddy tournament, people wouldn't be returning and we wouldn't have attracted, this kind of support.
I agree with everything you said. Also, my favorite thing about Prime Mind is I've been doing some of the meditation stuff because I need to meditate more in my life because I keep extremely busy and stress myself out, and I enjoy it. That is not bullshit. I have been messing with it, and I really enjoy it. Again, if you check it out, please shoot us a message. I don't want, like, ad shit. I want, if you check it out, for you to message it. And if you don't check it out, hey, no harm, no foul. Don't worry about it. All good?
Yeah.
All good.
All good.
Oh, hold on. Back to the tournament.
Yeah?
I want Joe to talk about his favorite part of the tournament because he's the one that sold me on this, and I never even thought about it.
Joe is old, and I probably forgot everything I told you.
So what was your what was your favorite part about every week playing?
The people that I met, hands down. I remember now. This brought back a lot of memories for me, and like I said, I told everybody my card game background. I played Magic in the 90s, and that was paper Magic when we would go to a shop every single Saturday, and we would play face-to-face against someone else. We were driving to big tournaments that were out of state and stuff like that. But my favorite part of all of those was not even necessarily, I won a few, but my favorite part was the player across from me. We talk, we get to know each other. We didn't know those people until we kept going to the same shop over and over again. And then we would trade cards and just that kind of stuff. That's my favorite part of doing this. And that is what that tournament brought back to me. Every single player that I played, I went 2-2. So I lost my first 2 games. I won my last 2. But every single person who I played, I chatted with them for almost a half an hour each after the game was over. We found out we like a lot of mutual stuff. We talked to them about Marvel and we talked about other stuff back and forth. But, and then I got to know these people, and some of them came on my show, which was absolutely fantastic. And that is what I like about Marvel Snap. That's what I like about what I do here. And that's what I like about gaming. And I think that the tournament really brought that back for me. So I was very grateful for that. And, I just got to meet some awesome people, and they still stay in touch with me through Discord DMs or wherever the case might be. So I think that's fantastic. And I would tell anyone that it's a wonderful experience. And for the $1, it is well worth it.
Cool. $1. All right. Let's talk about tournaments as a whole. The questions are, what have we learned about tournaments? What have you learned as participants? What has Gunny learned as a TO? What is the future of tournaments in Marvel Snap? I have a very specific answer for that personally. And why are they important for the game, even if you aren't a competitive player? And I think I have an answer for that too. Do you want me to answer to give you all time to think, or do you know what your answer is?
I have some answers. Well, let's go ahead. You don't get to start off much. Why don't you go ahead and answer some things there, Glazer?
So what I've learned is that Marvel Snap, or at least the competitive community, skews older. There is the Woody group that are college-aged, but almost everyone outside of that group who I interact with is an adult. And adults tend to prefer leagues to day of tournaments. Getting people for organized and focused in a single-day tournament loses a lot of really great players that leagues doesn't have to. I don't think that means single-day tournaments are dead or gone or anything else. I think that they're still good and viable. But I think Marvel Snap tournaments because of the clientele of the engaged player base, are likely to be league-based if they are to succeed. I think that is also the future, but I think the future of tournaments in Marvel Snap is going to lead also to more in-person tournaments. I think that we're going to start seeing gathering tournaments, not just SnapCon, although I believe SnapCon is expected to happen again, and hopefully my friends here are coming. I don't even know if I'm going, but hopefully I'm going too. We just booked Columbia for August, so we'll see. But I think that in-person tournaments in at least like major metropolitan areas are going to become more likely and more common. And I think that's very likely to help grow the game. And I think that's why it's important for the game. I think tournaments are a good way to get, like, if tournaments can start happening in person in stores, that's a really important way of growing the game. But also, Marvel Snap is a game that is very casual and lacks narrative. It doesn't have many stories to it. Unless you like obsessively check the infinite leaderboard, and hi, I'm talking about literally just myself of everyone I know. There's not really much narrative in Marvel Snap, right? Like there's this, and like there's no story about players competing. There's no there's only so much to do, right? That's part of why I do 3 decks a day, because there's only so much to do. There's 2 modes, and let's be honest, Conquest isn't exactly a refined mode. So tournaments, whether you compete or not, gives a narrative to the game. It gives a, oh, this deck does this. Oh, this player does this. This player keeps coming in second place. Can they get over the hump? Oh, this other player is playing a deck that I think that I had a really similar version to, and now I have feelings about that, and maybe I'm rooting for them. And it creates a different atmosphere for the engaged player base. I'm like, I don't think it'll affect the casual player base in that way, but creating a more positive tone, and Marvel Snap often struggles with a negative tone among its player base. Creating a more positive tone among its player base, especially the highly engaged, I think will affect positively the casual player base. Those are my takes.
Yeah, I think
which Lauren has heard.
From what I've seen so far as a TO is you're right. Asking players to give up an entire day or an entire weekend to a tournament it's rough. It's rough for a lot of people. It's rough for me as a TO. I've got to sit there all day and run this thing. It's definitely something I have to schedule my family life around. So if you're a streamer, and I imagine a lot of streamers are on a timeline, it's just not very viable to do. And the league really fixed that. We saw that. It was such a raging success, us able to do this league, and people were able to schedule their rounds, throughout the week. And it's some spaces where we're going to possibly explore. Glazer and I were talking about the possibility of doing like a bigger tournament, like what we're doing this weekend. But instead of running it through a league over a series of a month, like what if we do it at 8:00 every night for a series, for a week to a week and a half or something like that? That's a possibility. And then players can schedule their life around it. Like, do I think I can be available every night at 8 p.m.? Well, if the answer is yes, for a given week, then maybe you can participate in that tournament. So there's going to be some things that we explore there for sure. But I think you're right. I can tell you right now, I have been in chats with people who have been, plucking my brain and figuring out how to make in-person events happen. So I think that's going to be, and I think it kind of goes down to what Joe was saying, right? So the in-person event is so cool because it's not just a tournament. You're there to meet people. We could have artists show up. We could have cosplay contests. You could have on-demand events for people who scrub out of the main event. Like, there's just so much you can do in that space that giving up an entire weekend isn't you just sitting by yourself behind a computer. It is an event that you're going to, and you're going to remember. You're going to meet people, and you're going to go out afterwards and have some drinks. Like, that is a cool thing to do that I don't know that just, sitting behind your computer and giving up your entire weekend accomplishes.
Either one want to go? Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that, like you got what you guys were talking about, and you're talking about SnapCon and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping to see that continue. I do agree, though, that the fact that the game was made for casuals, and talked about that, playing a quick game and stuff like that is probably a little more difficult to convince people to, like you guys are also saying about, being around for an entire Saturday or an entire Sunday. So I do agree with that. However, I know that like Glazer was saying too, like in bigger areas. And I'm sure, if one was near me, I would make it a point to try to attend, just to find out, what it was like. And for, I know I'm probably not ever going to be that good to win anything big like that. And that's okay. I go because I have fun going. I also think that, the way, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit on the show here, but the way that Marvel has kind of, the MCU stuff I'm talking about and stuff has dropped off a little after Endgame, and I think it's starting to come back. And I think that's going to help this game tremendously too. I put up a post about X-Men 97 about getting a variant out for that. And so on and so forth. But I just think that the interest coming, and of course we have Deadpool, which is drawing a ton of interest and stuff. I think that if that comes back up, I think Snap automatically will garner more interest, similar to how the MCU would get people interested in comic books, which I loved, and stuff. And I think that will do the same thing for Snap. And thus, I think that will bring more attention to the game and more players to the game. And then that I think could lead to, maybe even themselves as a company looking into some of this big stuff other than like the huge conventions and stuff that they show up at. But yeah, I think there can be a bright future ahead for this. It has to be done correctly. And that's the big thing you have to figure out is how are you going to get those people who are hooked on this because they could play a 3-minute or 4-minute game, whatever it might be, to come and to, come to a place where you're going to get to play in a tournament that may take 5 or 6 hours. So, but I think people would. I do, and yeah, I'm positive that something from it's going to happen.
Laura,
I am speaking to the listeners who didn't participate in the first one.
they exist.
The only reason I participated in the first one is because Glazer asked me to, and he's a friend, and maybe a little bit like it felt like a tiny bit of Snap history, but mostly it was just like doing Glazer a favor. Mm-hmm. And I think that the league format, as you guys have touched on, it made a big difference. And I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have tried it without Glazer's invitation, but I had a good time to the point that I'm participating in season 2, and I needed Glazer to tell me that the signups were open, but it's not to do with Glazer. It's not to do him a favor.
Nothing to do with me. I know. I'm working on it.
The point wasn't to do him a favor this time. It was fun, and I did get to socialize a little bit with my matchups. I didn't as much as Joe has described, so I'm inspired now to do that for season 2, to spend a little bit more time in friendly chat. But it was a great experience, and I performed terribly. I think I got 1 win against somebody who was delirious with COVID. I played a goofy deck, and I played very impulsively. And I know better. I've climbed high in ladders. I know better than to be impulsive. But having said that, that I am not a competitive person, and that I did not perform well, it was still so fun and so doable to do 1 battle a week.
Yeah,
that I think everybody who can afford it should try.
Cool. Agreed.
Yeah. Now we're on to question 3 here. Why are they important to the game? So I will tell you that I'm not sure they are.
Fair enough.
Like, really? So, and that I'll twofold that.
Disagree. I gave you my reason.
I twofold that. So I'm not certain that tournaments, like a 1-day tournament, like we're doing the Snap Grand Prix this weekend, I'm not certain that is important for the game. What I do think is kind of what Joe was talking about, what you already mentioned, was the in-person tournaments. That is important for the game. If you, so I have, we're going to do this giant Snap Grand Prix. It's going to give $1,000 away. We're going to, we're going to have some good streaming for it. And sure, that'll attract some people, but it's going to attract the people who are already there, right? They're already kind of interested in that zone. I don't know how many people are going to watch and be like, oh, I gotta do the next one. But if you have an in-person tournament, like I said before, with cosplayers and artists for the comic books and vendors, and just have a really cool event, and you show pictures of like this cool event happening, that is going to be a draw for people. There are going to be people who just like comic books. They're going to go to Snap, whatever you want to call it, SnapCon, and they're just going to go it because they like Comic-Con. And it might even turn into something that happens during, I don't know, like once you make it an event to be at for anybody in the space, that is what is important for the game.
I like it. Any other thoughts? Or
yeah, I like that opinion. I mean, it's so much of this game. What drew me in, other than the actual IP, is the fact that the art drew me in. I love, and I've made that clear, the comic book covers are my favorite cards in this game. And it's because they bring back memories for me. All of those cards, those Golden Age, those older covers, I either own or I've read them at one point. And that's huge for me. And what Gunny's talking about is like the bigger Comic-Con. I've been to New York Comic-Con. That is just huge. And I mean, I was a foot or more away from Stan Lee, which was amazing. But yeah, I think that they can certainly get into something like that if they can, get some of those artists that drew these amazing covers to show up there and have prints there and sign their artwork and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that would be 100%. To have something where not only do they have the tournaments they can play in, and in most of those kind of conventions, they'll have a tournament scattered throughout the day. They might have one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening, scatter them about, and then the rest of the time, the people can kind of, go around to all these other things that are there. Yeah, I certainly think that can happen. But I think, though, it all comes from, what you guys are doing, right, is you're setting a foundation. So, and I think from that foundation is where this can build. The fact that I was able to just meet the 4 people that I did would make it so where, if there ever was a tournament that was, relatively close to me, and those other people, were in a similar area, I would want to actually say, well, hey, listen, maybe we can meet up there, and maybe I can actually meet you face to face. So yeah, I like it. I like what he's saying.
Boop. Boop. Marvel Snap Economy. We're going to start with Lauren.
Let's go.
No one cares what anyone the rest of us have to say about this. We're going to answer anyway. You have to listen. But this is Lauren's thing. How is it right now? What would you improve that seems reasonable and likely? What would you improve that seems less likely?
Okay, how is it right now? Well, it used to be that you could have a full collection for $10 a month. I know there are people who are very anti-spotlight system, even when they have read my articles and I have explained it to them thoroughly.
In Terabang. Sorry.
There are those who still think that is the worst system, when in fact, between like July and December of 23, it's the best the economy ever was in the game as far as affordability. It's different now. We've had a bunch of changes. We have the 64 card year as a big one. Yeah, extra card every season. Direct to Series 4 cards seem to have dried up. Things like that are making it so that you can't have a full collection for $10 a month. Now, I don't think you need a full collection. There is some amount of cards that is okay to be missing. I don't know what that number is. And so 7. I think they just need 7 is more than I'm missing.
I just picked a random number. I don't know.
It's really hard. It's a problem that they've acknowledged, right? Like, Spotlights made Series 4 and 5 cards so much more accessible, but also negative sentiment around them. I think, some people have talked about reasons why. Like, it's so random. You don't know if it's going to cost you 1 key or 4 keys. Or, like, if you miss, it's going to take months before you get another chance to spend keys on the card you missed. Those problems are real. I think they do need to address them. Like, the sentiment is important, not just what the bottom line cost of the game is. It doesn't matter how many numbers I throw at people. If the system feels bad, they hate it. So let's see. What's my point? Where am I coming from? The number of cards that you can get for $15 a month or $20 a month or however much, if you're a free to play player, the number of cards you can get is directly proportional to how big Series 4 and 5 are. And they're huge. We have series dropped back. Kind of. We've had one in January. They said there will be 2 or 3 more this year. I'm worried that they're going to let Series 4 and 5 get much larger before they stop them from ballooning constantly. That's probably my biggest concern. Is that Series 4 and 5 get just way too big. Other questions? What do I improve that seems reasonable? Series 3 acquisition. I know before I said the rate of acquisition, but I've sort of changed my mind over conversations with different people. I think the agency of Series 3 acquisition is a lot more important. That could be that the 1,000 tokens in the token shop for a Series 3 card lets you see which card you're getting, or like you suggested earlier, just have a token shop where you can choose what you're buying instead of dealing with the rotation. I think another solution would be like every time you open a cash or reserve, it shows you 3 cards and you get to choose which of the 3 you want. Increasing agency will go a really long way. Could be that the free card that you get every month is actually 2 free cards a month or a free card every week, which sounds like a lot, but also Series 3 is huge. So increasing the rate, it would be nice, but increasing the agency, I think, is a lot more important and makes it so that somebody who has half of Series 3, when it's fully random, having half of Series 3 could lead to 2 very different collections. A collection where you can build hardly anything strong and a collection where you have, decks that can almost compete in the meta. Obviously, you need 1 or 2 Series 4 or 5 cards, but keys let you have that. Lost my train of thought. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Help me.
We'll to Joe.
From what Lauren said, and I talked to her about this on my show as well, and I almost ask everybody that comes on what they think about the economy in Snap, and they all come back to the early game experience, especially Series 3. And I had someone on the show that had said maybe give people like a bundle of sorts where they can buy like a bundle of 3 or 4 cards that can give them a destroy deck or some other type of something that they can do there. It is tough. It's hard for me to speak about it because, again, I own every card. I don't have an issue with getting them and stuff like that. But I feel everybody's pain points when you have to go through, and now it just seems too like cards are getting better. Like we're not getting where we look at a season and we're saying, well, this card stinks. I don't care about it. So I'm just going to let it go. We're getting better and better cards. And so it's harder and harder now to make that decision for players. So they rely on listening to people's advice and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's still there's a lot missing. I'll be honest with the game economy lately. I've been getting more about the emotes than I was getting about the cards. People like upset about the fact about those emotes that really do nothing in the game at all, but yet you can kind of make a point where people can use those more than they do variants in a way, because you can use them all throughout the game. Not that your opponent's going to see it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many questions that you can put out there to be answered about the economy of the game. I personally tried to go back, and when I was talking about this with the emotes and all that kind of stuff, I go back and look at just take a step back. I've been playing video games since Intellivision came out in the late 70s and early 80s. I've seen the evolution of all of this, and games nowadays are going to, they can sell at a huge price point, $70 to get a game, but it doesn't stop there. They're going to keep on putting out content. And because it's going to take the designers another 3 years to make a game from that company or make another game like that. So they're going to give you more content. They're going to give you an added on level, but you're going to pay $20. They're going to give you skins for suits in Spider-Man, but you're going to pay money. My gosh, Candy Crush. You're going to pay 99 cents to advance to a level. It's been going on for a while. And with mobile games, a lot. I mean, I've played a lot of these things that they just do this. World of Warcraft, I played for many, many years, and they would charge people for mounts. If you wanted a cool mount to ride on in a game, you pay $30. So this isn't anything new, and I think I sometimes wonder, that's not something that people see, because it does happen a lot everywhere, and that's how they make their money. But it's not to say it's all correct. But I would go back. I'd look at the new player experience. I'd look at Series 3 in particular, and I would try to do something with that to not only just get the players, moving a little easier forward to be competitive, but also, for the players that maybe left the game and coming back, some other means to be able to help them to catch up. And I think you're seeing that with we had mentioned TLSG has just come back to the game. I've been watching his videos since he has, and he's running into that where a lot of the cards that are out, he just can't get. And so yes, I think there needs to be something that I don't know. Lauren is probably way more versed on this than I would ever be. And I don't know how to solve it, but that would be, I would think, something that they have to look into.
Yeah, I think onboarding is a huge issue. I mean, just the grind up is so hard for someone. I spent 4 months to get Series 3 complete, and I spent about $400 to do that. There's no reason why I would like it to be cheaper, but hey, it doesn't matter. Like, if you want to take my $400, go for it. There should just be a way to quicken that up. If you just take people's money, if you want to buy, I think they've already said 6,000 tokens cost $60. So why isn't there a shop that allows me to spend $60 on whatever card I want? Like, it would be it could be outrageously expensive and people would yell about it, but there is an amount of people that would just go out there and spend the money to get complete. And I think that's okay. And just like, I don't know why it takes so long to get through Series 3. I mean, to really just start playing this game in any kind of competitive form at all. And I know it's a casual game, but like, it shouldn't take 4 months to do. Like, it should be so much quicker. Like, and I honestly think that unique collections is a weird hill to die on. Like, what competitive player or Series 3 complete, trying to push towards infinite numbers is actually playing with a unique deck because, this is a cards that I own. There's not. So I just don't know why it's so limiting on that. For a very, very casual player, maybe that's cool. But for whales, for people who want to spend money, like, just let them. Find a way to let them spend money.
I have nothing to add. You literally have all said every take I have. Congratulations. Like, it's literally like onboard people who've come back, let me spend my money, drop some damn cards.
Yeah. I have one more take. What I would like to see, and this doesn't really fix Series 3 because I need to fix that problem as well, but I would like every month for one Series 5 card to go to Series 4 and one Series 4 card to go to Series 3. They put 5 new cards in every month. Like, one card going down doesn't hurt.
I can pitch it. They're going to laugh at me, but I can pitch it.
I just think it'd be fun. It'd be fun to like figure out, and obviously they could. It would be great if there was some kind of lotto, like see a big wheel spin, like Glenn spins a wheel, and like that's the card that goes. Is it going to be Howard the Duck, or is it going to be something good that people want?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun take. But you're right.
The trickle down would just be fun every month. Like, hey, what's coming?
Yeah, but it definitely is something that has to be looked at. I think there's no doubt about that. There's too much competition in this, and something new comes along all the time. At the Snap, what was that? The Baltimore convention that they just PAX East. The Star Wars game was there, so that's around now. I mean, I got sample cards from that.
Yeah, but that's FFG. That shit's going to die.
It's not digital. Yeah.
FFG can't run shit.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah, they said that.
8 years. I spent 8 years in FFG land.
Yeah.
Oh man, are they bad at it?
Yeah,
shit's gonna be the hottest thing in the world for 3 years, and then they're gonna forget to print cards for 2 years and be like, "Oh wait, sorry."
Yeah, probably not the best example.
Unreal.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's look. I've said this before. When the new Pokemon thing comes out, if it's any good, I'm playing it.
Yeah, you're already.
For a less likely fix, by the way, on the economy, I think it'd be really cool for players who are in Series 3 or something to just be able to buy a deck.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's missing a couple of the key Series 4, Series 5 cards, but like how cool would it be to just be able to buy Destroy minus maybe X23?
Or null or X23. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like you pay your $40, you unlock all of the Series 3 cards that are in your Destroy deck, and you get one of those too, or
I'm worried what they're going to do, because I think they're going to do that eventually, or some version of that.
Yeah.
You're going to buy it, but you're going to buy variants of it, so you still have to fucking open them on the
Oh, yeah.
I'm locked up in its head.
When they do that, I'm going to... No, I'm not.
I am okay with that. So it at least gives somebody something to play.
I mean, sure, it gives you something to play.
Pride,
but then
still pops up in my token shop every once in a while because I bought the variant.
Yeah. So that doesn't bother me as much with Series 4 and 5, but when you're trying to go through the slog that is Series 3...
But the slog would be less detrimental if you actually had a deck to play.
Sure. Yeah, I guess.
Which goes back to more agency. Rather than fixing the rate, fix the agency.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, there's room to fix
one piece on the agency, though, Lauren, is like, let's say I am able to choose the cards I want. Well, then what happens to the second half of Series 3 where I don't want any of those cards?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, when I was Series 3 incomplete, I was the lucky time. I think Lauren was too, where we could just buy whatever Series 3 card we wanted for 1,000 tokens. And like, we didn't have enough tokens to do that for everything, but like, I was like,
your Shuri, you got your Venom.
Well, no, Shuri was Series 5. But yes, I got Destroy was terrible. But I got my Sarah. I got my Arrow. Because Arrow was the best card in the game for a while. I got my, I bought whatever the important cards were. I bought, Wasp, because, I was like, I really, I've got every card for both Lockjaw and Patriot, but Wasp. It was just like, all right, cool. And you checked and you just bought the fucking Series 3 cards you wanted, and you don't have unlimited resources, so you couldn't just get all the, you know what I mean? You couldn't just do the thing where, the second half of Series 3 is all cards you don't want unless you wailed the fuck out, and if you did that, that was your choice.
Yeah.
Stop making, they're really greedy, but they also make it really hard for me to give them money. And I think that's a really weird dichotomy.
It is.
If you want my money, then make it easy for you to give me the money, and then, don't be a dick about it. Right? Is that crazy? I want to give you my money. Check in every 8 hours, sucker. But no, can I just, no. Whatever. All right, let's move on, because we get it. All right, we're off Marvel Snap for at least the next few minutes. X-Men 97 time. Thoughts on the show so far? We're going through these one at a time. Sorry. Gunny, you're going to have to suck it up. Gunny's only seen the first episode because he doesn't do his homework. All right.
I was going to be able to watch 7 episodes today.
I don't know. You should have called out of work. The show is amazing. All right. Thoughts on the show so far. Let's overview thoughts on the show.
Man, it is so
Joe.
cool.
Oh
Isn't
my
it?
gosh. Well past my expectations. Best thing Marvel has done in a long time. And I don't think that I'm exaggerating that. And it's not like I've watched everything they've done. I didn't even go back, and I know a lot of other people did. A lot of my friends did, went back and actually watched the original.
It's bad.
Yeah. It's not like when they showed you scenes from yesterday's and they showed some flashback scenes and stuff like that. It's two different worlds, with the animation and stuff like that. But I love this show so much. The storytelling in it, the characters, the animation. Oh my gosh! Yesterday's episode blew my mind. It was, an anime fan would love it because of the color and the artwork style and the graphics from it. Like I was absolutely blown away. And some of the scenes, I don't want to go into spoiler territory because I know I'll get yelled at by someone for spoiling it because they didn't watch it yet. But
okay, here's what's going to happen. When this episode releases, I'm going to timestamp this section. We're going to spoil the shit out of X-Men 97. Skip it.
There you go. Good. Anyway, we got a scene with Rogue where.
Can we talk about the first episode? Can we go in order?
Not at all. Not at all.
But the first episode, the big twist was so awesome.
I'm well past that.
Oh, the Magneto twist?
Yeah, the Magneto twist.
We got to see with Rogue which was unreal. I have never seen that character do what she did in that episode, and it was absolutely phenomenal. General Ross was in it. Captain America was in it, and how cool is that to see him with the black on his head and the big A? I was like, it was phenomenal, and everything they're doing, and I don't know if this is going to do this, but I'm just thinking like how cool. It probably won't, but how cool would it be if this series ends? It's going into a 3-part finale. And if it ends, because it is going to end before it, if somehow this ties into Deadpool, which I don't think they would do that either, because animation and movies are usually two completely different things. But
it's also a bad idea.
I don't know, man.
Deadpool is going to be a comedy.
It is. This
but is very
the tie-in, though, is it? I don't know. People have seen the trailer, right, for Deadpool and Wolverine, the newest one. Which, by the way, I've never seen a trailer with so many F-bombs that I've in my entire life. But the Wolverine in that trailer is his universe dies essentially. So, what if the Wolverine from X-Men 97 at the end of the season is that Wolverine that he goes to see in live action? That's the only thing that I'm thinking, which could tie that in, which I think would be really cool. You're probably right. It's probably just a pipe dream on my part. It probably won't happen, but I just think it's kind of cool if they would. But it's been far and above my what I expected. Now there's rumors that they may be bringing back some of the other Marvel characters or Marvel series. They might do a Spider-Man 98 at some point. They might bring. This is just, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. There's nothing I can say that is bad about any of these episodes. I loved it all. And when these 3 episodes are finished, I'm going to want more way quicker than they're going to be able to give them to me. So I love it.
Lauren?
Okay, I don't know how much of the original show I saw. It wasn't 0 because when the theme song came on, it was nostalgic for me. I'm assuming it's the same, or at least inspired by it.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'd heard it before, so I must have watched it as a kid, but it didn't feel like a show that I'd watched a ton of. So I went into it without really having experience with the original series, and it was totally fine. But I still so deeply loved and appreciated the 90s animation, which I grew up on. I love that it's TV-14. I think that was a really good choice because, like Glazer was saying, it's dark, but it's not just like you need the room to be able to use a few curse words and for the violence to be pretty personal and to really like sell how I don't know, grim their situation is. And it's been so lovely. Of course, myself being a queer person, I've loved how clearly they've tied. I think being a mutant into being a minority, which has kind of always been an X-Men thing. There's coming out and being hated by society, and it's just like so easy to parallel with being a minority in today's world. Yeah, I've loved everything about it. When I know we're not on the favorite episode question yet, but when you,
I mean, just go for it. That's the next question. So.
Well, I was going to say I pulled up the list on Wikipedia. Like, what is my favorite? I'm like, oh yeah, that one was really. Oh wait, that one was awesome.
Mine's the first.
They're all excellent.
It's the first.
Oh, they're all so good.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a miss yet.
So, right. Do you have a pick? Besides the first, obviously.
It's so hard to pick. I think I might pick the Mojo episode, even though that is possibly one of the most filler of them. I love the how zany it is, and meeting the older version of herself, and all the pixel art, of course. Yeah, I mean, it might be like the most filler episode out of all of them, and maybe that's why I'm picking it. Just because
it's also got Life Death Part 1 in it.
Absolutely, and maybe because it stands out as something that is different, so it's easier to single it out. Where everything else is just so
intertwined.
Oh no! I mean the whole reveal, the episode once Madeline shows up, which is the episode following. Once she is there, the Madeline episode is really, really good too. Maybe that'll be my pick. I'll lock it in.
All right. Do you want to know my take on the show so far?
Yeah.
All right. My favorite thing about the show so far is that I'm watching this really cool, nostalgic feeling show, and I'm imagining these cards as these characters as Marvel Snap cards. Like whenever I'm playing the game now, I'm like, oh man, I just watched this person. It was just such a cool tie-in between those two that I didn't even expect. I get to see Jubilee run around and not just pull out a Giganto. I feel like and Joe and I have talked about this before, because on the first episode I was on with him, we talked about, I think it was actually the second episode that I was on with him, but we talked about like how to onboard into Marvel, because I wasn't a big Marvel person. I grew up more fantasy, Tolkien-esque, and less like Marvel Snap or Marvel and comic books. So he got me onto some of the movies and TV shows I should watch, as well as a couple comics I could pick up that aren't hundreds of episodes behind. So now watching this Spider-Man or this X-Men has been really, really fun for me. Like I get to learn who these characters are who I didn't know before. Lauren talking about watching this as a kid. Like I don't remember watching X-Men as a kid. I watched Animal Planet. I don't know. But it's been a really fun experience. Yeah. Even though I've only watched one show, like I can't wait to watch more.
You got to watch it all.
There you go. Priorities.
I totally agree about my experience connecting it with Snap. Both like developing these characters that like I do know pretty well, but still, getting deeper into them. And also like little like cameo appearances of characters that I only know of because of Snap. Characters like, I don't know, Leech or Mr. Sinister.
Guy.
Yeah.
I have some experience with Marvel, but not so much that I
and another cool thing is like I think the dev team has done a really great job of characterizing these characters into the game, right? So like learning about watching the first episode with Master Mold and all the Sentinels, like those are what they do in the game. They reproduce themselves, and you have a Master Mold that makes like more. Like that's so cool.
Yep. Sunspot now in this. Leech,
Right?
of course, we've seen. Strong Guy we saw yesterday. It's it's just Morph. How about Morph is like a main character in the show. And,
Yeah, I love that. I love Morph.
and the fact that he does everything he's advertised to do. He could become Wolverine, or he can become, which is I love it. I was saying, and Lauren answered, put out a post on my post that I put for it. It's they need to do variants for this game. They need to do the X-Men 97 variants. If they don't, that's a big miss. 100%. They really need to do it. I don't know. Maybe it'll be. I mean, we're getting a Deadpool season, I'm sure, but it'll probably be after that. But I don't know. They need to do it. They just need to have the animated series variants.
It needs to be right now.
Agreed.
Why is it not right now?
Yeah, agreed. And because my favorite episode so far, I'll throw that out there real quick, is the episode before this one. So Bright Eyes, devastating episode. Absolutely. I'm not the type that'll go to a movie and get really emotional. I don't know why. I get upset with some things. Guardians 3, watching my poor daughter sitting next to me, just tears streaming down her face watching that movie, was hard. But that was for an animated show. The devastation that you saw in that was really, really heartfelt. And then the continuation of that into this week and the stuff with Beast and everything like that. It's just, when an animated series can get you to feel things like that, it's pretty special. It's kudos to the people who are writing it, and of course the animation itself. But yeah, that was just a crazy action-filled episode, but with just devastating ramifications. So that's my favorite one so far.
Yeah, the funeral.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
it was tough.
Yep, no doubt.
I think. Okay, I love it. Obviously, I didn't do this slide because that show really sucks. Right, like it's so the X-Men have always been my favorite from basically forever. When I was tiny, Wolverine's not my favorite X-Men. But when I was I was like 5 or 6 years old. A babysitter randomly showed me Nightmare on Elm Street, which I was terrified of. And one of my neighbors taught me about Wolverine because in my dreams, Wolverine could protect me.
That's awesome.
So, like, I've loved the X-Men literally. I was like 6 at most. So I've loved the X-Men forever. They're basically my favorite franchise. They're the comic series I keep up with, even when they're kind of terrible. I think so. All right. My favorite episode is so trolly as a favorite episode. But it's the second episode because dear viewers, the controversy before the show came out about it being too woke. And then in the second episode, they literally did a January 6th allegory. Was the funniest thing I have ever fucking seen in my life. They were like, this show is going to be too woke. And they were like, oh, no, hold my beer. We are straight, like, no. We are making an X-Men villain literally be the fucking weird shaman dude. Like, it was genuinely glorious. My son did not understand. He loved that episode, right? He's 8. He does not understand anything about this, but he was like, why are you like laughing so hard? I was like, I don't even know how to give you the proper context for this. It's just like it was, but I don't know if I'm ever going to enjoy it. Like, I don't know if I've ever enjoyed a moment of watching TV as much as when I went, did they just fucking spoof the insurrection in the middle of the second episode? And yes, they fucking did. And then, like, the emotional punch of Magneto's speech at the end is genuinely unfucking real.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely unreal.
It's incredible how much they can pack into a single episode.
Really is.
Yeah.
There's I know I called the Mojo episode the most filler episode, but really, like, there's no filler second in this show. They are, it is so dense. Everything, something important is happening.
And the big villain reveal. We got the villain reveal. So,
Gunny won't know who that is. So we can say the name. It won't matter.
Bastion.
Bastion. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I knew it was Bastion from episode 3. It was, It's a 90s show, and then Bastion is like the quintessential. It's like it's not going to be Onslaught, so it has to be Bastion, right? Those are the two big 90s X-Men, like cliche of 90s. All right. Any thoughts about heroes, and who's your favorite character so far? Hero-wise, not villain-wise.
For mine now, I think it's got to be Rogue, man. I listen. I knew, I was never a huge X-Men reader. I've read big X-Men events, so I read like Fatal Attractions when that came out in the 90s, and and stuff like that. And then I've gone back, and then of course the early Fox movies and stuff like that was where I got a lot of that from. But Rogue, I always knew what she did and what her powers were. But holy cow, like this past episode was just, I never would have thought I'd see Rogue do all that. And so I like her story arc. I like the fact that we got to see her real emotion just go off, and just, destroyed somewhere where they basically built it for the Hulk to withstand a Hulk attack, and just blazes through all of that, stands toe to toe with Captain America, and then has the balls to take his shield and whip it 5 mountains away from him so that he can't go and get it. Good. I mean, I'm loving Rogue, man. I always liked Gambit. He's probably my favorite X-Men. Always a big Gambit fan, and loved the scene with him, and the end, if that's indeed the end, which I highly doubt it is. That was a great way for him to go out. But I've always loved him. But man, I love Rogue in this so far.
Yeah, so far I really, obviously I've only watched the first episode, but I've really liked Cyclops as a leader myself of Marines, right? Like I know the trouble it is to lead people, and just seeing him conflicted with that, and how he came in the first episode and realized like, wow, it's not me that needs to lead here, it's the team. That's just really cool, and I'm excited to see his progression throughout the throughout the series.
It's not going where you think, but it doesn't go anywhere like negative to Cyclops.
Okay. I was seriously considering Cyclops, which really surprised me that would be a character on my radar. But I love the emotional complexity of, is it a love square with Cyclops, Jean, Madeline, and Wolverine? But I'm gonna go with Jean. Just like the emotional complexity of at first being so angry that he's struggling with who to love between Madeline and Jean, and he kind of loves both of them. But later he's really struggling with that and hurting, and she's comforting him. That kind of like that growth I'm finding so interesting and rewarding.
So Cyclops is my favorite X-Men character, so it's like definitely Cyclops for me. There is no character in the show I don't love. I'm extraordinarily grateful that Wolverine has very little to do. He's there and like a character, right? But he's not dominant, and so much of X-Men media is dominated by Wolverine that I'm perfectly happy to let him just be a character instead of the character. And Cyclops has, outside of the original X-Men show, has been the most compelling X-Men character in for freaking ever. Since 2001, since Grant Morrison started writing New X-Men, which I don't know if anyone has read. Joe, did you read New X-Men?
What year did it come out?
Grant Morrison, 2001.
Yeah, I did.
The Morrison run.
Yeah.
So since Morrison took over until the present day, Cyclops has been the most compelling X-Men character, and I don't think it's especially close. The sheer complexity of the character, the things that he goes through, the decision making, the constant everything, nothing is ever easy because he takes responsibility. He's just an amazing character. I absolutely love him. There is, again, though, no character I don't like, and more than anything, I think the character that surprised me most, because I knew I was going to love Cyclops, they'd have to kill him for me to not like him, right? They'd have to do. I like, I knew I was going to love Cyclops, and the second I saw Life Death as a title, I was super excited for Storm, because the original Life Death from, I want to say, like, 87 or so, Claremont run is just stellar, and I was like, they're not fucking doing Life Death, and then they just did Life Death. And it was just like, all right, I guess we're really just, we're doing it, all right. Because Life Death is weird, right? Like, it's phenomenal, but it's weird. Jubilee is the most annoying character in the original. She's like, I love Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde and Jubilee occupy the same role in X-Men canon. And Kitty Pryde is a phenomenal character, and Jubilee, outside of like an occasional run, was always either throwaway or useless. And she's been really compelling in the show, and I'm very surprised.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. I like the other ones that I didn't really know much about too. I like Sunspot a lot, and the way that he started out the show. And then we just got introduced to White Queen, which was kind of cool. So yeah,
she better join the team.
So, but yeah, I like it. I like just seeing all these other characters being used now, and we saw so many of them. Nightcrawler, I love how he's doing the part of what he should be. When he presided over the funeral and things like that. Yeah, I like them all as well. There's really none that I dislike. And man, yeah, I just really love the show.
Okay. Thoughts about villains thus far? It doesn't have to be the villain. Any villain thoughts? Lauren?
I'm trying to think. Like, there's been a lot of villains that I didn't know anything about. The whole episode in space, the Sierra Empire. Like, what's her name? Deathbird or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, this character I've never even heard of, and that was really interesting. That I don't know, that dynamic. Mojo, I had no idea. I thought Mojo was going to be, he comes in and he's all like exciting, and he has like a playful, higher pitched voice. It was like totally not what I was expecting based off of only knowing Mojo from Marvel Snap. He's very energetic and funny, kind of silly, which I guess he looks like a sort of weird, silly character, but it totally caught me by surprise. Yeah, I don't know that I have any like overarching. The villains they're doing a great job at delivering complexity. Like the Life Death villain, which is
the nemesis adversary.
Yes.
Yeah, the adversary. Which
is symbolic, right? Like, I mean, maybe it literally exists. I don't know the lore, but it seemed symbolic more than anything else. It was so good. The like portrayal of, it's almost like a mental health portrayal.
Oh man, the best villain so far is Bolivar Trask.
Well, I have good news for you.
Yeah, right. That's true. He does.
I mean, that's the only villain I've seen.
Yeah.
Unless you count random trucker hat wearing thugs.
Trucker hat. Sure, let's pretend those aren't mega hats.
I'm liking Sinister so far. I just like, again, and this lends itself to the animation, but it's just he comes off as being, sometimes when you watch these old shows and you go back and you watch the other ones, you can see that they're very much more campy. And that made everything about them campy, including the villains. And so Sinister is legit creepy. And that's really what he should be. From the way he's drawn to what he does to that big castle that he was in and all of that. It's just very creepy. And I like that. That is exactly what he should be. And so, yeah, I think I like Sinister so far. Of course, Trask, yes. And now, of course, after the proceedings of the last one and Bastion's going to be interesting. I wasn't reading around that time, so that kind of stuff is a little newer for me, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But I know who he is, I know what he does, and the ending scene of the last episode is pretty telling. So yeah.
I like the Sentinels and the Sentinel-based stuff as the villainy, and I'm going to tie this into themes and messaging. The X-Men obviously works as an allegory for whatever people are being oppressed by society in whatever way, and the Sentinels are just a big, giant, metallic frickin' representation of that, and they evolve based on society's fears at the time, right? Like the 1960s, where like the nuclear age was an issue, to like when he becomes more humanized and more like almost invisible, like the internet. What is our fear of technology, and how does that relate to our own bigotries? And I think that the Sentinels do an amazing job of that, which ties into my favorite thing about the themes. It's that they've done such an effective job of tying the allegory into various groups. Beast's fight with Trish Tilby in the latest episode was, I mean, genuinely unexpected, and it's not something I expected them to touch. And it was brilliant. It was just like, wow, you are really, like, they have had no problem exploring the metaphor. And, like, they're using Sentinels to do so in a way that I think is really interesting. And I think that the show is bold, right? Like, I am genuinely surprised Disney okayed some of these takes. Like, Disney is not usually going to come forth with a pro-rioting stance.
Very true.
But they did. And I'm just like, fucking A. Like, hell yeah. But, like, they've let the X-Men actually mean something. And I think it's amazing. Lauren.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, I don't know if I could add anything better than what you've already said. Yeah, they're going for it, and I'm loving it. I'm loving having a cartoon that's not just like the action is really fun, but also to have so much complexity and depth, to have it really mean something, and to have an opinion, and from my understanding, that's kind of what X-Men have always been, but it's or at least in the comics. Maybe the movies weren't that way so much.
With more and less focus.
Yeah. So it's really lovely to see it and just execute it so beautifully. It is a blessing of our time that animation has become. I think they've really leaned into cartoons being a medium and not a genre. And there are so many modern cartoons that tell really beautiful stories. And it's been I've loved that I've been able to share such cartoons. Take your Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Owl House, Airbender. There are so many that I've been able to share with my child. And not only is it like fun, we both get to watch it, but also like there's a message and like it's teaching something about the world. And I'm definitely gonna be making watch X-Men 97.
This gives me a lot of confidence about animation going forward. I saw some good stuff over the past few years. I was a big Blade Runner fan growing up, and I saw an anime called Blade Runner Black Rose, which was amazing. But this, as you guys have pointed out so well, you're getting, not just what could be visuals, but you're getting storytelling. And that is what a lifelong comic book fan bodes well for me, because they're getting back to what comics used to touch on. In the 70s, when I was reading them in the 80s and stuff like that, they did touch on things like that. That was what it was for. The writers of these things were writing on. I mean, I'll be honest. I have a copy and read the book, the Spider-Man book that came out after 9/11. And I don't think I've ever seen a comic book quite like that. And just how that, the emotional moments of that whole entire time summed up in a book by Spider-Man, not even really uttering much of a word. And so that's what these things can do for you and bring these emotions out of you. And yeah, I would agree with both of you in that respect. This is getting emotionally drawn into an animated show, which I can't really honestly say that I don't know if I ever have. And yet here it is. So I'm excited about the future of this and what comes after it, because that no matter who it is, and they see how successful it is, they'll try to mimic it and they'll try to do things like it. So that gives me confidence going forward.
You should watch Steven Universe.
Yeah. Yep.
We good? Variant of the week, Jean Grey, felt appropriate given that both a buff happened and we talked about X-Men 97. Favorite Jean variant? Gunny and I have the same one. Gunny, what's our favorite Jean variant?
It's the first one there. It's the Jean that's just, I mean, a lot of them are surrounded by fire, but she just got like these beautiful flames, almost look like wings coming off her. And I don't know, it just looks awesome. Red hair's glowing, like it's a really cool pose. She just looks powerful and empowering. Yeah, my favorite variant.
It is Art Germ Phoenix, the one that was the first Spotlight, I believe. Like literally the first Spotlight I think they ever released.
Yeah.
So I did not get this because Spotlight keys, we didn't know how it was going to work exactly. We had the math right, but like we were in 1,000% sure. But this is, I will be buying this the second it comes out. I'm very excited for it. All right, Dark Phoenix from Jim Lee.
I love Jim Lee's art, always have, and this one I like that outfit, the red and the gold, and obviously the way Jim draws is just iconic. I've loved his art since I read the comics, and that's what this brings back for me. But I just love her look there, the hair flowing, the fire. I just think the card's awesome, and I love that variant. Just again, it's a habit with me. I like the comic book stuff.
Fair. And Lauren is the only person who actually picked Jean Grey as her favorite Jean Grey variant.
I think that's part of why I picked it. Is I like her original like X-Men student suit. Yeah, it's the pixel. Here's the thing. Jean Grey is one of those cards where basically every variant is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Storm's that way. There's a bunch where they're just like, there's so many good variants.
Daredevil.
Yeah, Electro.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it harder for one to stand out when it's the same thing I was picking an episode for X-Men 97. It's like when they're all so good, there's two art germs. Do they kind of cancel each other out? I mean, art germs not really my thing, but
me neither usually.
This one is very lifeful for an art germ, so I do think this one is great. I think it's the only other one besides the base art that's got the like class uniform or the team uniform, and it's got a fun action pose and energy, and it looks pretty good animated. Like, yes, it's a pixel, but among pixels, it's a really good one.
Fair enough. All right, we are on to... Oh, I'm doing Patreon before I'm thank you. Patreon, thanks. Ready? We got Abigail Gislam, Edward Burnout Cables, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, Fawthorn, Domingo Dog Gamer, Inc., Jane Everett, J. David Glumdino, Caretix, Lee Coire, Pyrophoros, The Goat Seeker, Denman Falcon, Doku, Philip Brakovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins, Rob Silverman, Wante Gulabed, The Biz, Exorcist V, and Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, SnapDecisions League Season 1 winner, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, Kev C. Hoda, Ludacris, Louis Antunes, Models, Matt Supreme, Brian Kaufman, Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectre Mix, Hoot, Matt H., Mikey Hijinks, NoFlex, Ocularis, Craig Starry, Pretty Chill, Seamus, Spike Jones, Two Ties, The Pirate King Tucker, The Homie Min, and of course GunnyT, where the T stands for, hey, he didn't crash this episode. Lauren.
Oh no.
Why should our friends follow you? Why are we oh-knowing?
Because every time I do this, you criticize me.
Because you don't sell yourself.
Yeah, what can I say I haven't said before? I look at the game in a unique way. I haven't really written a Snapalytics in a long time, and it's something I'd love to get back to, but economy has just kind of taken over so much of my content. I like breaking down the math of cards and Snap and looking at the data from Snap Zone, and yeah. So if you're interested in that or in Valkyrie Lockdown, follow me. I just split Valkyrie for the 43rd time.
Yes.
Oh my god, I saw that.
Foil.
I saw that. That was awesome.
Gold foil, rainbow crackle that I have been hunting. And,
are you going to split again?
I don't know what to do with the game anymore.
You're going to catch up to me with my Galactus splits.
Oh, jeez. Yes,
That's
but Lauren's
true.
is good taste.
Yeah, that's it.
And Lauren's is the same card split 43 times. Not different variants.
Yeah.
I think it's like 28.
That's
okay.
Valkyries, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you should follow Lauren for those reasons and because she's the best person in the community. It's probably a good enough reason, right? You should definitely just follow the best person. I feel like that's a good rule of thumb in life. If you find someone who's the best person, it's worth following them. So go follow Lauren.
Incredibly sweet. Thank you.
Welcome. Look, I've got a whole group of friends in Marvel Snap that are my friends literally because you told me to like them. You're like, these are my friends. You should like them. I was like, okay, they're my friends now. I'll support them. All right. The Chad USMC on Twitter.
Yeah.
Snap Tactics GunnyT, who doesn't make videos. Tell us about yourself.
Well, this used to be a part where I sold my YouTube videos, but I guess I don't really need to do that anymore. So I guess following me now is if you want to be a part of the best Marvel Snap tournaments happening consistently, then follow me, and you'll find out where they're happening. We're doing some good stuff, and I'm really excited for what the future holds for us and what we're going to do with the space, exploring different ways to bring other hardworking Americans and I guess people around the world that cannot give an entire weekend up a good way to enter tournaments.
I mean, I get a lot of credit for Snap Judgment League that I don't deserve. I just have a big mouth. GunnyT does all the work. Oh, sorry.
Do all the logistics work. Models does like all the work. All the real work.
You two do all of the work. I do all of the talking, and you two do all of the work. I cold DM 70 creators one night. That's what I do. But yeah, you do all of the work, and you deserve all the credit. This is success. I mean, like, people join because I have a big mouth, but people are staying, and it succeeded because of you and Mott's work. So, like, literally, I don't think I deserve much of the credit. I think you guys deserve all the credit. I started talking about tournaments, and you were like, here's how we do it. And then we did exactly what you said, and it worked amazingly. So, like, hey, thank you. It's amazing. You should follow him because, again, following people who work extremely hard to bring good things to others is worth doing.
Yeah, and then if anyone out there is just interested in entering the tournament space themselves, like, I am an open ear for your ideas and how to make it happen well.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, we have Mr. SnapDecisions 53 on Twitter.
Come and follow me because I just I think I bring a little bit of a different thing to all this. And what I bring to it is, even though I'm an older guy, I've still got that boyish excitement about anything that comes out like this. I have a background where I got a very good opportunity to speak to a lot of people, and I love doing that. And when I can combine that with my love of Marvel and my love of comics and my love of these characters, then it really shows. And so follow me because I bring that and a lot of honesty. I will never ever, say I'm doing something that I'm not, or try to sell you on something that I'm not doing. So I think that's about the best way to describe it. So there you go.
Can I get a little bit of a hard sell here, Glazer? You mind? All right. So
how dare you say nice things about someone else?
Yeah. So out of all of the Snap podcasts out there, I think Joe really brings heart to his podcast. There's a lot of podcasts that talk about like the meta, and they talk about new decks, and they talk about things. But man, Joe is like the heart of the community. He's bringing people on there, and he's having discussions with people. He's not having, discussions about a game. He's like the Marvel Snap historian as well. Like he knows so much, and like the all of the discussions he has are so enthralling and just like really captivating. He is a great, just a great DJ. He did such a fantastic job. Like I love just listening to Joe talk. His takes on it are normally not from the high meta perspective. So it's like a man for the people.
Thank you so much.
That was half of my hard sell, but thanks.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much, dude.
So I'm going to pivot to my backup hard sell now, because it was definitely man of the people was literally the quote I had. Thanks. All right.
What he said.
Did you really fucking just say that? Douche. Right? Like I think of these like 2 days before. I like work on that. They happen in my brain. All right, whatever. Cool. No big deal. No. So there's this weird myth that I'm the hardest working person in Snap. And it's not true. I work hard. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm definitely not the hardest working person in Snap. But if you value that kind of work ethic, and I know a lot of my audience does value that kind of work ethic, the kind of person who like makes time for things, but makes time to care about it, not just to do it. That's Joe. He doesn't do it just to do it. He makes time to do it well, to care, to speak intelligently and passionately, and make sure that not only is a position understood, but a human is understood. And not just him, but also his guests. And it's really great content.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that.
My absolute pleasure. Let us move on to the end. Because, still remember to follow Den. It's been remember to follow Den for like a month straight, because I never remember that slide exists. So I just keep copying the Den episode and changing all the other slides, but I forget the very last slide. So it's always like, hey, everybody, but you should still follow Den. All right. Like Roy's like, Glazer, I'm like, I show this to everyone. No one ever checks the last slide. All right, whatever.
He's a $100 patron.
Den gave me $1
slide.
He gave me $1 and canceled immediately. He's like, I'll decide if I want to give you more money. I was like, that's fair, Den. Thank you very much. So and someone's on today's video, someone's like, do you just support Den because you work for him? It's like, I don't work for Den. Like, what? I didn't know how to answer. I just ignored it. Someone else replied. I was like, Den's not my employer. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what? All right, whatever. I mean, Terrence is my employer, right? Like, Jesus Christ. Whatever. Neither here nor there, I guess.
He's invisible to the community, though.
That's right. No one knows. Like, people are like, who the fuck is this Terrence? Like, Glazer references once in a while. Yeah, don't worry about it. Okay. Oh, thank you. I read your message. I had no idea what you're talking about for a second, because I was thinking about like working for Den and how weird that would be, right? It would just be like being insulted by this surly French man all the time. I don't know what I would do. Like, it's just like, oh, I feel bad about myself. All right. Please remember to follow us on all the socials. I'm not Roy. I gave up on being Roy about 3 segments ago. So please follow us on all the socials. Hopefully you know how to find us. We do so much freaking content. I think it's pretty good. And I put my heart into it. Thank you for joining us, Gunny.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, Glazer, again. And it was so wonderful to see you again, Lauren and Joe. We just talked a couple days ago, but always awesome to chat with you.
Thanks for joining us, Lauren.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's always so much fun. I want to be on again. And the co-guests this time were great. Not that they ever haven't been.
I'm going to look up who you were on with last time and then message them and be like, Lauren hates you.
I think it was me.
It was Ben.
Oh, super duper. Oop. And Joe, thanks for joining us.
Ben Roller.
Oh, Ben. Oh, wow. Like your bestie. All right. Joe.
It was an absolute blast. Thank you so much for letting me come on. I loved it. Would love to come back anytime. And of course, in the company I'm with, obviously Lauren's tremendous, Gunny is awesome, and yourself. You may say you're not the hardest working guy in Snap, but man, I know what you do for a living. My wife does the same thing, so I know how hard that is, and I want you to know that myself, and I know the people that are in my little community and everyone that I've talked to appreciates everything you do every single day for this game. Even when you're coming home from surgery, man, that took something. So I just wanted to say thanks to you too.
My pleasure. What it took was insanity. Peace and love, everybody. We're done.
Peace.